Hello, my name is Anna Harrison. I'm going to share with you a few highlights from a case study recently completed with Live Oak Elementary School in Santa Cruz, California, and how a team of collaborators and teachers were successful in activating nature-based outdoor learning for their students. Over the course of my career as an educational facilities planner and designer, I have visited many school campuses with buildings like these. But behind this collection of dilapidated portable classrooms marooned in asphalt, there is a whole other world. Outdoor learning spaces, vegetable gardens, a farm with goats, chickens, and pigs, all cared for by students under the direction of a dedicated agricultural sciences teacher. Working with this school had a profound impact on me. This PBL school had fully activated nature-based outdoor learning, and I was hooked. I wondered how this concept of learning with nature might work at other schools. Around this time, the COVID-19 pandemic arrived and many schools shut down. I became involved with the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, seeking to reopen schools safely by activating their campuses for outdoor learning. Teams of landscape architects, school leaders, and education facilities planners such as myself supported schools across the country in bringing students back to school safely for in-person learning outside. One of the schools I had supported for outdoor learning was Live Oak Elementary School. I decided to approach the principal and the garden educator about collaborating with me on a case study to activate nature-based outdoor learning on their campus. Live Oak already has a thriving education program in the garden that is supported by the garden educator. With the exception of the garden, however, much of the Live Oak grounds are covered in asphalt and concrete. It's a study in contrast. This third grader puts it well. Out there, it feels like you're sad and drooping. You don't feel like doing anything. And then in here, you just get happy and excited for the day. During conversations with my collaborators, I learned that they would like to see more teachers engaging students in outdoor learning, and they felt the garden learning spaces were underutilized. Despite copious evidence describing the student benefits of Noble and the urgency of addressing our global climate crisis, education remains primarily an indoor endeavor, making it difficult for children to learn to love and care for nature. Our conversations culminated in this goal for the case study. A pilot group of children at Live Oak Elementary School representing grades K through 5 will receive a minimum of 60 minutes of nature-based outdoor learning per week by the end of 2022. Research compiled by Cornell University indicated that children receiving 60 minutes of Noble per week have improved academic success, improved socio-emotional well-being, and an increase in environmental stewardship behaviors. We received the go-ahead from district leadership, and we were ready to launch. And so the 60 Minutes in Nature Challenge was born. This is a flyer created to launch the case study detailing a few of the benefits of Noble. The research suggests that providing teachers with professional development workshops and opportunities to observe outdoor educators is not enough. We decided to try a different approach. We created a path. The path kicks off with a baseline survey and one-on-one interviews of interested teachers. The teachers who joined the challenge would be asked to facilitate Noble lessons for their students, beginning with one 5 to 10 minute long lesson, gradually increasing the number of minutes over 4 weeks. I wondered if these incremental steps, plus my hands-on support, would give teachers the opportunity to establish the habits of mind and behavior necessary to sustain Noble after the case study design was over. To keep the threshold to Noble as low and accessible as possible for teachers, we gave them this 5-minute Noble lesson. This could literally be offered once a day, and they would be halfway to the goal. The project began with asking teachers to fill out this baseline survey. We were hoping that 3 or 4 teachers would opt in. The results exceeded our wildest dreams. Close to 3/4 of the 15 classroom teachers responded that they were interested in increasing students' access to Noble, and over half responded that they were interested in participating in the 60 Minutes in Nature Challenge. I invited 10 teachers to meet with me one-on-one for kickoff interviews. Here are the results. 10 teachers were interviewed for the challenge. 9 teachers joined the challenge for weeks 1 and 2, and 8 teachers completed all 4 weeks of the challenge. 6 of the 9 teachers achieved the week 1 goal, 3 of the 9 achieved the week 2 goal, 3 of 8 achieved the week 3 goal, and 5 of the 8 achieved the week 4 goal of 40 to 60 minutes of Noble. Here's another look at the data. The wide variety of minutes in week 1 points to the wide variety of Noble teachers were already offering their students. This variety reminds us that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Teachers need to be met and celebrated exactly where they are. You may notice there was a dip in week 2. During the exit interviews, I learned that teachers experienced a high level of enthusiasm during week 1. However, week 2 coincided with the end of the first trimester when assessments were due. It also had started to rain, and one of the teachers dropped out of the challenge after week 2, shown here in pink. The 8 teachers that persevered experienced more rain in week 3, and one teacher who was out sick for 3 days. By week 4, the sun was back out, and all 8 teachers had offered at least 15 minutes of Noble to their students, and 5 had achieved the goal of 40 to 60 minutes. Here's a graph showing how the weekly minutes tracked. The rain was viewed by teachers as both a barrier and a blessing. They noted their students' excitement about the rain, especially given our lengthy drought here in California. And one cohort of students studying soil displacement was very excited to observe this phenomenon happening on their school grounds. Children get excited about rain. A serious barrier teachers faced was finding the time to plan and prepare for Noble and to figuring out when to schedule it into their weekly routines. Over the course of the challenge, teachers reported that it took a while to figure out, and that by the end of the challenge they understood better what was needed to make Noble happen. Here is how the most common barriers evolved over the course of the challenge. In week 1, time and scheduling were the biggest barrier. By week 4, weather was the biggest barrier. The steady increase in Noble minutes offered to students, along with the dissipation of the time and scheduling barriers taken together, indicate that teachers were beginning to incorporate Noble into their weekly routines. The data illuminated the first of 3 key findings, which I call the power of the path. The structures in the Nature Challenge provided a path for teachers to establish the habits of mind and behavior necessary to integrate Noble into their weekly schedules and routines. Another key finding is how barriers to Noble exist at multiple scales and can be nested within one another. Macro barriers to Noble are systemic. For example, oppression, racism, and the effects of colonization. Nested within macro barriers are meso barriers, such as school leadership support, the availability of nature-filled spaces on school grounds, and access to Noble-compatible core curriculum. The data revealed that even when macro and meso barriers are removed, individual micro barriers, such as access to outdoor learning spaces, are powerful at thwarting students' access to Noble. These are a few of the micro barriers that were revealed and swiftly removed during the challenge. Removing micro barriers is the second key finding from the study. I learned that a personal and hyper-local approach to identifying and removing individual teachers' barriers to Noble was critical. Once a few micro barriers were removed for this teacher, They began taking their students into the garden for reading, exclaiming, "We're actually holding books in our hands now." This teacher also noticed they themselves felt more calm after 20 to 30 minutes in the garden. Other teachers did science with Noble. For example, this teacher created a 4-week unit on bugs. Math time about bugs, reading about bugs, writing about bugs, ultimately each child producing a book about bugs. Their teacher noticed it was the best work they had done and that they were very proud of it. Some teachers opted to take their literacy curriculum outside and noticed the different experiences their students had in outdoor learning environments as opposed to indoors. One shared about a child who cried during dictation tests. She did the same thing outside, and the child did not cry. Several teachers reported that their Wiggly students were calmer outside and more able to focus. And teachers did math in nature. For example, these students are learning about greater than, less than, and equal to by looking for sticks that match the size of pieces of red string. The rain-soaked sports field attracted a local community member, an egret, who showed up several days in a row to hunt for food. Teachers harnessed their students' fascination with this wild creature for observations and nature journaling. The magic of nature became the third key finding of the study. Regular weekly access to Noble had an immediate and visible positive impact on students' ability to self-regulate, focus, and engage with their learning. In the final analysis, 5 cohorts of children had received 40 to 60 minutes of Noble in a typical school week, and 7 out of the 8 Nature Challenge teachers responded that they were extremely likely to continue to offer Noble to their students after the end of the study. The recipe for success at Live Oak Elementary had these ingredients: a school garden, a dedicated garden educator, innovative district leadership and a school site principal committed to Noble, engaged educators with the capacity to offer Noble to their students, and a nature challenge structure that provided a path, surfaced and removed microbarriers, and let the magic of nature do the rest. The recipes for success will likely be different at each school that seeks to increase students' access to Noble. And I have come away from this experience believing there is a path to Noble for every school and school district. As one teacher put it, just having a conversation about Noble is helpful. Supporting teachers to offer Noble to their students is personal and must be individualized to each school setting and to each district's leadership priorities. It is through continuously engaging and re-engaging in conversations with one another we come to a collective understanding that moves us along the path to Noble. Thank you for listening to this presentation. For access to the detailed results from the case study, please visit my website, annaclaireharrison.weebly.com, and please reach out to me. I'd love to talk about your school's path to Noble.